Tov Jewish News, thanks for joining us. We have an interesting talk now with Moshe Feiglin, who's a former member of Knesset, still from the Likud party, and thanks for joining us, Moshe. I want to open up this interview with a short clip. You were interviewed a couple days here in Hebrew on the Tov network. Let's take a look.
If we don't create a crazy kind of revenge, crazy, that people talk about it for the next 50 years, no other solution will be relevant. After you do that, ahlan v'sahlan, everybody will talk to you, there will be peace, not a minute before.
So, revenge? Explain what you're leading to for our English-speaking audience.
I think the word revenge is very clear. This is exactly what we need. Excuse me. This is exactly what we need. We need a revenge. After what they did to us, nothing less than a real revenge. A humanitarian crisis. Million Azati people doing whatever they can to pass the Rafah border to Egypt. I'm talking about revenge just like the British took from Germany, just like the Americans took from Japan. I'm talking about Dresden. I'm talking about burning the Gaza Strip, definitely the Gaza City, to ashes. That kind of revenge. Nothing less than that.
It doesn't seem that doesn't seem that is the war that that at least the government has proclaimed that they're after. As far as I understand, they're talking about destroying Hamas. So, what's going on here?
They look. From day one, I realized, right after these horrific Simchat Torah, horrific Shabbat, I realized that this is where it's going to go. Because I was there at the Knesset, at the security meeting of the Knesset, foreign and security meeting of the Knesset in 2014 in Operation Tzuk Eitan, and I saw exactly how things are developed and what these guys' state of mind is. I'm talking about the military leadership and the top political leadership, which was also led by Netanyahu then.
I think we should point out that the people who have their hands on the wheel right now are the same military and political leadership of the past 10 years, more or less.
Of course, the prime minister was Netanyahu. The chief of staff was Gantz. His number two was Eisenkot, who's also now in the war cabinet. It's the same group of people.
So what do you think is really going to happen now?
Nothing. Do you see any war? I don't see a war.
So
Elliot. Let me explain. Let me explain something. They tell us that the army got to prepare, and all these kind of nonsense. Do
you think they're just wasting time and nothing's going to happen?
Basically, yes, which is a disaster, which is a horrific disaster. But let me tell you the follow. Okay, the situation right now, after we lost almost 3 weeks, is that another minor Shoah happened here on the land of the state of Israel. Worse, much worse than the Kishinev pogrom. Only 50 Jews died there. Much worse than the Kristallnacht. Okay? So the situation right now is that the Jew all over the world lost his right to exist again, just like the time between the Kristallnacht and the Shoah. That's the way I see it. Because if the Jews created their own country after the Holocaust, After every VIP that comes to Israel, first we're taking him to Yad Vashem. So there'll be no doubt why we need the state of Israel. And when we get the Shoah here on our land, and for 3 weeks we're sitting on our, you know what, on our butt, doing nothing, we prove that that our whole existence as a sovereign country has no meaning, has no right. And the history of the Jewish people today is not written in New York or in Warsaw. It's written in Jerusalem. And if the Jews cannot protect themselves in Jerusalem with the biggest army in the Middle East against a terror organization, then the Jew don't have the right to exist anywhere in the world.
Okay, so what do you think is actually? So what do you think is actually going to happen?
1 second, and that is just the beginning. We lost any kind of fear that our enemy had against us, closer enemy, and in all circles around us, from the Arab next door, from the next door Arab neighbor here in Israel until Iran and Yemen. Okay, we lost that. And on top of that, we're inviting the Americans to come and creating by our own hands a banana republic here that leans on the Americans. And we know what happens when you do that. We saw it in Hanoi, in Vietnam. We saw it in Afghanistan. We saw it in Iraq. I don't want to be the last Israeli who's trying to hold the last American airplane that leaving here.
So let me ask you a question. So let me ask you a question. Assuming that your analysis is wrong, and within the next couple days, maybe week, Israel does invade Gaza and start taking care of the terrorist infrastructure and trying to eradicate Hamas completely from any position of government, will you be satisfied in that sense, or is it still revenge and, like you said, turn Gaza City into ashes?
Elliot, excuse me for saying, but this 3 weeks that passed brought us back to the position of the Jew that his whole family was demolished in the most cruel way that you can think. And we think, technically, what can we do technically? Hey, you're on the wrong page, Elliot, already.
I'm trying to get a better understanding of where you're leading. Because I want to ask you a question. I want to make it harder on you. Okay.
I'm not attacking you.
I'm fine. I want to ask you.
I'm saying that the questions are being asked from the wrong perspective of the situation.
Okay. But all right. But I want to ask you. Nevertheless, I want to ask you a question, and that is, you say it's not enough to go and fight them and demolish Hamas. You say I want revenge. I want some kind of horrific theater of this, not only destroyed thing. I'm assuming you're talking about great numbers of people from Gaza being killed and all that. And I would ask you right now, Israel enjoys a lot of support, almost unilateral support from governments all around the world. I think we haven't seen something like this maybe since after the Six-Day War even. The question is whether the call for revenge, as you're depicting it, would not do more harm to Israel without bringing any better result.
Okay, so I'll answer all your questions. First of all, when we say demolish Hamas, we're talking nonsense. There is no Hamas. There is the people of Gaza, okay, that voted almost 100% in the democratic election for this group, okay? There is no difference between the last little kid in Gaza and the organizations of Hamas. You cannot find a difference. You cannot go into Gaza and decide I'm killing this guy because he's Hamas, and I'm not killing that guy because he's not. women and children and elder people past the fence and did what they did in Kibbutz Be'eri. And we still think in the Western way of armies and people who are involved and people who are not involved. We don't understand that we have a problem with a nation. We created that nation, by the way. They're less than a nation. But we have a problem with an ethnic group of people that care about nothing besides making you and me look like these people who left in Be'eri, in Nachal Oz. What do I care if they call themselves Hamas or PLO or Islamic Jihad, and tomorrow you put another title on them? It's the people of Gaza, for God's sake. But you...
Okay. So basically what you're saying is the war...
We want to lie to ourselves in order not to do the only thing that we can do. And it's to destroy Gaza, capture the whole place, level the whole place, and rebuild Gush Katif forever. Nothing than that will defeat the Arabic Muslim dream to do to you and to your wife exactly what they did in Nachal Oz. Nothing than less. And that's the only language that our neighbors that's surrounding us in this jungle understand. So don't talk to me again about demolish Hamas. This is the biggest lie that the Israeli government and the Israeli army generals lying to their own people. There is no such a thing, demolish Hamas. The only thing there is demolish Gaza. That's first of all. Now to your second question about the American aid. Do you know when we started to get that aid from the Americans historically? After we did exactly what I said now in 1967, until in 1948, when 5 Arab countries said they're going to do to the newborn Israel exactly what the people of Gaza did right now, that's what their goal. That was their goal. You know what the Americans did? They put an embargo on Israel in 1948. Embargo. And we got basically nothing until we showed that we are strong in 1967. That was the time when we started to get the American Skyhawks and Phantoms and all that. America is acting according to American interests, nothing less.
Obviously, every country is going to...
And when you are weak, they taking advantage of it. And when you are weaker, they have no interest anymore with you, and they leave you. It works exactly the opposite of what you think. Exactly the opposite. You have to show strength. You have to show strength. You have to win this war, as I said, and then you'll get respect and you'll get more aid from America, and because you'll be somebody that you can do business with and respect himself.
Okay, so basically, if I sum it up, you say the war is not against Hamas, the war is against Gaza, and actually it's against all the Palestinians if the PLO and the PA are equal to Gaza. I think we can both agree that Israel has to be strong, and the world identifies with strength. We have to wrap this up right now. I thank you very much for joining us, Moshe, and we'll be talking more in the future, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.